Hey everybody, this is Dr. Flight. I hope you're doing great today. I want to do a video and a coverage of material here that deals with creating value. We're going to talk about the value proposition, creating value from the customer's perspective, but then also from value in the firm's perspective. And then also I want to link in and tie the idea of satisfaction and the impact satisfaction has on the organization and on profits in particular. And this is one of these continuing videos that really talks about the role of marketing and why marketing exists and kind of the purpose that marketing serves just in general, but also kind of in a bigger picture. To sort of be that function or be a function that organizations need to be able to rely on. So this idea of value then is at the heart of really everything that we do. Marketing and the marketing function is thought of as the function that creates value, disseminates, distributes, communicates the value as well. When we talk about value, what we're talking about is the thing, whether it's a product or a service, that customers need, they want, and that they're willing to pay money for. And so we define value in lots of different ways. It's not just the physical object that someone's buying, but it's really what that object does for them. It's what the benefits are that they receive from making the purchase or the exchange in general. When we define value, especially from the customer's perspective, the customer is going to look at those benefits. They're going to say, well, what do I get? What do I get for buying this product? Or engaging in this company or this service? What benefits will I receive compared to the costs I have to give up in order to receive those benefits? So think of it as a ratio of again, what I give up, whether it's money or whether it's time or effort, the things I have to relinquish in order for me to receive those benefits. Extending this a little bit further, we're going to talk a little bit more about the firm and what the firm receives and how they see value. And the firm creates value in lots of different ways. When we have this thing we're offering the customer, we're not just offering them the tangible product, but they're offering our reputation, our image. We're representing a promise to them that our product will satisfy their needs. All kinds of things like that are not necessarily tangible, but are benefits nonetheless. And so we have this concept called the value proposition, and it's all the benefits, everything that the customer experiences when they experience our product. We have created as the firm all those elements. They've all come at a cost to us. But together and collectively, they are what the customer purchases. So when somebody buys a pair of Nike shoes, they get the shoe, but they also get the reputation and the image and the logo and the kind of personality. They get everything that's involved with that particular brand or product, that company that they're buying. And so they're getting them delivered, they're getting the price, they're getting the advertisements, they're getting all those things together in a bundle, in one price. So that's the value proposition. And so oftentimes we talk about our value proposition compared to other companies' value propositions. And we want to create value for the customer, and it's the net benefits that the customer will receive as a result of paying what they're willing to pay. In the scope of things, and again, in terms of marketing's role to do this, well, it's not just marketing's role, it's the whole organization. The whole organization that is creating a value proposition for the company, for the customer to see. And customer value then is this outcome of the processes that the company engages in. It starts with strategy, it starts with planning out what value is going to be, and extends all the way to the customer. Now, from the seller's point of view, from the company's point of view, why do we want to create value? And really, how do we define value? And I'm going to give you just a couple ideas from, again, from a strategy perspective and from a marketing perspective, of course. One thing that we want to do and where we find value is in our customers and their willingness to repeatedly buy products from us. If we create a value proposition that a customer wants to buy and then buy from us in the future, that customer becomes an asset for our company. It becomes a cash flow or a cash stream, and we can project future revenue based on that cash flow, i.e. that customer, as a result of creating value for them. So customer lifetime value is a value that we talk about. In order to create our value proposition, though, and create that value to the customer, we need to identify what value we have and that is unique to us as an organization. So another kind of concept then is this notion that we have as an organization things we do really well and things that set us apart from others. If we do something really well and it sets us apart from others, that's a distinctive competency. It's something that we do that we can lay claim to, and ultimately we take that distinctive competency and we convert it into something the customer wants to buy from us, and thus it translates into something unique that we can offer the marketplace, called a unique sales proposition. Okay, so value to the seller is something really quite different. It translates and it ends in customers being our customers for their quote-unquote customer lifetime. But the reason why people buy from us is because we can offer them something unique and special in the marketplace, largely based on things we do well, called our distinctive competencies, for sure. The last type of value that we'll mention, and we mention this because it's mentioned in a lot of textbooks and marketing. I think very clearly that it's an extension of economics. So a lot of times the things we're doing in marketing are the actions that drive a lot of economic theory or are drawn from economic theory, one of which deals with something called utility. Economists use the term utility to describe the degree to which a product satisfies needs or brings value to the customer. So from an economic perspective, there's 3 or 4 or 5 different types of utility. Form utility is when we take a raw material and we transform it into a finished product. Time and place utility kind of go together in the sense that customers want a product where they're located, typically in their place. They also want them at specific times or a time component, like when they need it. I don't want a product before I need it. I want a product when I need it. And if it's available when I need it, then I've met this value of time utility. Possession utility deals with this idea of ownership. There are mechanisms in place that we can transfer ownership from one party to the next, thus providing possession utility. And then finally, psychological utility. So if we shift more to services and we go to kind of the experience of owning a product, that internal psychological need might be met. Owning a pair of Nike shoes might give you motivation and spirit to exercise a lot. And it might, build your self-esteem, and by doing so fulfills a different role or value than just simply a pair of shoes. So don't discount that. That's a very important kind of concept of utility. And again, this is drawn, kind of from this quote unquote economic perspective. And, if we're going to extend this to and just kind of this value idea that the customer sees, we got benefits, we have costs. Those benefits might be the product, service, the image, the value proposition that the firm creates. Also, we might think of these as utilities that are received. Those are all things the customer is looking for and the reasons that are motivating them to buy the product. The costs might include time, money. There are also things called psychological costs as well, time commitments, pressure, and things like that. All of these, though, combine, if you will, to demonstrate what the customer has to give up in order to receive those benefits. So just wrapping it back around, this recapitulation of what value is to the customer, it's a balancing act between what they get and what they have to give up. Okay, so again, value is a rooted notion that we build many theory off of in marketing, and to some people, it's what reason why organizations exist. If organizations did not create value for somebody, then there would be no reason for the organization to exist. So where does value come from? And you can kind of trace back and kind of do some mind games and think about the role that value plays. Okay, let's shift gears a little bit. We talked about value, but let's talk a little bit about how this intersects with the customer and ultimately how customer, whether they like us or not, translates into impacts on the organization and how that could be meaningful profit-wise for the company. If the customer does not find value in the product, they will not be satisfied. If they find value in the product, they'll be satisfied to some degree, and they may even be more satisfied if we offer more value, maybe through customer service and things like that. So let's talk about the opportunity to underwhelm your customer. When you're not focused on delivering value to your customer, if you're focused on something other than value creation, then it leaves us in a situation where competitors are going to come in and serve our customers better. Customers are going to be less satisfied. They're not going to be as happy. If they're not happy and they're not satisfied, they're going to go to our competitors, and they're not going to be as loyal to us, which means our customer retention is going to be lower, right? Customers don't keep coming back if they're not happy. They leave, which means I have to replace them. Every time I replace them, that's an extra cost. It costs me money to advertise. It costs me money to acquire new customers, which impacts our profitability, right? So, this is kind of a chain reaction thing. You just go around the circle and see it's a downward spiral. If I'm impacted profitability-wise, then that hurts my short-term planning. It hurts the cash flow that I'm bringing in. And it typically causes some type of emergency reaction in order for us to regain those customers or that cash flow that we've lost. Okay, so obviously that's a bad direction to go in. The opposite direction, which is going to end up in a good situation, is when we understand where we are competitively from a value perspective. I understand what I'm giving my customer value-wise, and I'm attuned to that. I'm changing that. I'm updating that, which, again, if we're really giving maximum or ultimate value to the customer compared to our competitors, then they're going to continue to come back. They're going to support us. They're going to give us positive word of mouth. They're going to be satisfied. They're going to be loyal, right? All of that leads to increased retention. In other words, customers stay with us, which means we don't have to spend as much, A, on them, and B, on acquiring new customers. Again, just kind of circling around, this adds profitability, adds profit margin. It gives us the ability to do better long-term planning as opposed to reacting to short-term shortfalls. And then that ends up in a good situation for everybody. Okay, so kind of this idea of focus and where your approach is in terms of your customers is no small matter. It's actually fairly significant. And I mentioned here this idea of satisfaction a couple times, and satisfaction is one of very many, many, many metrics that we measure in marketing to assess performance. So in marketing, it's kind of funny because a lot of people think, oh, marketing really not a math-oriented type of field, and it's absolutely the opposite. We measure everything in marketing, and we analyze and we strategically plan our decisions and our behavior based on the data that we receive. So of any of the fields of business, marketing is one of the more math-intensive fields because of all the things that we measure. Customer satisfaction is one metric, and there's a very, very strong association between performance and profits. So satisfaction goes up, profits go up. And so here we have just a simple scale, a 6-point scale from very dissatisfied to very satisfied. And if we looked at sort of this trend, customer profitability and satisfaction, you can see it's clearly positively related. And there's a lot of research and evidence that shows this. This is not just a crafty graph here. It truly is that way. Very disappointed or dissatisfied customers cost us money and are unprofitable, whereas very satisfied customers are extremely profitable. And we want to increase customer satisfaction. B, we want to focus our efforts on customers who are satisfied because they're more profitable for us. It makes sense. Kind of some other data here. Again, if you look along the left-hand panel, very satisfied, satisfied, somewhat satisfied, all the way down to very dissatisfied. We look at how many of our customers meet those criteria or those categories. So we do a survey. We ask people, hey, how much did you like your experience today? How satisfied were you? 25% were very satisfied. It kind of goes in a range. Most of our customers were satisfied, but we had some that were dissatisfied as well. And then we look at over how much customer revenue was generated based on customers in each of those categories. So not only how much money we brought in, but also how much was our profit margin on those customers. Remember, happy customers we don't have to spend as much money on to satisfy, because we just don't. They cost us less money. So our profit margin is higher. They spend more with us and our profit margin is higher. So as a result, our customer profit, if we look over on this far right over here, we're going to see this profit overall so much higher when customers are so much more satisfied. You see, it could actually be negative. Some of our customers could actually cost us more money net than we make from them. So that's kind of a big takeaway. Again, when we look at the difference between satisfied and very satisfied customers, they make up 88% of our total revenue. So again, the key here is two. One, make customers happier, more satisfied, do things that actively push them in that direction. Two, when we look to sell to customers, when we look to market segments to sell to people who are happy with us first. In fact, people who are unsatisfied with us, we'll encourage them to go to our competitors if we can't convert them because they cost us money. Okay, so yeah, there's absolutely kind of a connection here. Another way we can think about this is extending satisfaction to retention. Remember, I mentioned this idea that if customers aren't happy, they will leave and we'll have to replace them. And so further kind of noting that as we replace them, there's a cost associated with that. So this little chart here shows a customer base of 100,000 people, 70% of which are satisfied. And a lot of our satisfied customers come back. So 90% of our satisfied customers come back. So that's fantastic. However, 30% are not satisfied. And so this is a binary thing. You're either satisfied or you're not. And some customers, I have to, I have to please. I try to. If they let us know, if they complain, then that's great. I can work to bring them back. So as it turns out, if somebody's not happy and they tell us about it, we have a very strong chance of retaining them by doing complaint modification, by helping them out, by solving their problem. If they don't complain, however, if we don't know they're not happy, most of them leave. 83% of customers who don't complain, who are dissatisfied, leave or vacate. So in this scenario, 22,000 of our 100,000 customers leave. Now, those are the ones that are the scariest because we don't know that they're unhappy. We don't know. The ones that we know that are happy that we don't keep. Maybe they've found other needs. Maybe they don't need our product anymore or whatever. So these other categories we can kind of deal with, but it's the ones that don't tell us they're unhappy. So in this scenario, 22,400 are people who we lost, right? 83% of those who didn't complain. So that's kind of scary. And again, we kind of look at, kind of these not retained ones, look where the problems are. And now we know, though, that we have to replace 30% of our customer base. This is each time period. So that's called our churn rate. And obviously we want to lower that as much as we can to lower our costs. Okay, so again, this is kind of this impact on satisfaction. The very last thing we'll talk about here, and again, it extends this concept of customer retention a little bit. When we talk about customer retention, we talk about the life of the customer, and we mentioned this concept of customer lifetime value before. One of the things we want to know is how many time periods a customer will be our customer. And we can do this by looking at our churn rate, or 1 minus our churn rate, which would be our retention rate. What percentage of customers come back? So in that last example, 30% left, but 70% came back. Our retention rate was 70%. And you kind of look at this chart. This is an example of customers with Netflix. This is old data, from many years ago, but the math is the same no matter what year you are. Say that 72% in 2002. That's close to our other example where we had 70% retention rate. At 72%, we can expect our customers to be with us for about 3.5 years or time periods, if the time period is a year. If we increase retention, though, from 72 up to, say, 80%, that's a big jump. It's 8%. If we increase that much, then instead of 3.5 time periods, our customer's life now becomes 5 time periods. Obviously, we're getting far more profitable, or the profitability of the value of the customer is becoming greater and greater the longer they stay with us, or the longer they're retained, or the higher their retention rate is. Okay, so there's a couple formulas here to know, I guess, on customer retention, customer life. They're both related because they're there. So the customer life and the retention rate. If you have the retention rate, you can certainly calculate the customer life, and that's what you'd probably want to do. Okay, so this wraps up this video. I hope it's been helpful to look at value, how value impacts this idea of satisfaction, and ultimately how satisfaction can impact the overall organization and the firm. Okay, if you have any questions, please let me know. Thank you for watching, and take care.